Okay, we're learning Iggeret HaTeshuvah Perek Daled, and what's interesting about Perek Daled is understanding how the name of Hashem is engraved in our soul. So, first of all, welcome back, Vadia. Bruchim Habayim to Eretz HaKodesh, to Israel. We spoke about initially about the path, the technical path of Teshuvah. But now we go to the deeper level of Teshuvah. Tashuv Hey, we're trying to return the Hey to restore the channel of life that Hashem provides us. This living spiritual oxygen that we get. That when someone does a sin, so something gets clogged up. And we're trying to fix it. That's the mission. So in order to fix that, we've got to know, what is this channel made out of? And that channel is the Yud Kei Vav Kei that's inside us. And that is the Yud Kei Vav Kei that's up there. And they both link, they both connect. And Tashuv Hey is to return the Hey. We're trying to restore it, we're trying to bring it back to the way it was before. And the Alter Rebbe goes very interesting into the Yud and the Hey and the Vav and the Hey. And the Alter Rebbe explains what does that mean in our personality. And we are going to focus today on NACHLAOT. NACHLAOT is the Hey, the last Hey. And we'll speak a bit about NACHLAOT. We'll speak about the others as well, but NACHLAOT is very interesting.
That's the lowercase Hey?
That's the lower Hey, correct. So the Yud, what is the Yud? The Alter Rebbe tells us that the Yud is the bridge between the subconscious and the conscious. In other words, that is like the power of will, koach haratzon, pleasure, that these are all forces that drive us to behave in a certain way, but we cannot always say, oh, I'm this or that. You cannot put a finger and point out what exactly you're feeling, because it's not a feeling. It's deeper than a feeling.
How does it call the unconscious?
In the words of Alter Rebbe, he doesn't use unconscious. Tell you what he uses. Yud shehi bechinat nekuda levad, meramezet lechokmato yitbarach to the chokma. But what is chokma? The highest sephira. Shehi bechinat he'elem vehester. So it has he'elem vehester, which means it has concealment. Kodem sheba'a lebchinat itpashtet v'gilui asod v'avon. Before it starts to get letters or hitpashtut, before it starts to spread into something that you can understand and can grasp. So maybe we can call it the Sechel HaKadmon as well. So it's a very deep level. That's the Yud, and that is the highest part in our soul. Or it's not the highest part in our soul. It is, but it's the highest part between the conventional side of the soul and the unconventional side of the soul. That is when they connect, and that's where they unite. And then there's the Hey. The next Hey is obvious, where we say the Hey is, it's got length, it's got the length, it's got the width, which represents Hasaga. It represents understanding. We are expanding the Yud now. It's not just a dot, but now it moved from being a dot to becoming a metzius, an existence, which means you can explain that to others. In other words, your personality is developed.
It's already binah.
That's binah. And that is binah. So the first is the nakuta of the personality of a person. Then we go to the lower level. That's already the part that you can understand and others can also understand. Truth is, it's not yet others, but it's about you being able to understand what motivates you, what drives you, what causes you to behave in certain ways. The Yud, we cannot really understand because it's bechinas he'el behester. There's a lot of concealment there. But the Hey, that is already a point where you can understand and grasp.
Well, how do you connect this with the idea of thought, speech, and action?
So thought, speech, and action, they enter only later. And why? because they have to do with a practical interaction between you and the world around you. But regarding your personality, there's no need for a world around you. You don't have to think. You don't have to speak to others. And you don't have to do anything. You can sit at home and you can have these emotions or these intellects that help you develop and understand who you are, for example. They express a lot of the soul. Okay, so even without people around you that maybe trigger certain things or need you to interact with them, which is a good way to discover who you are. But it starts from really who you are, and that is the head. So this is all within the person himself, without a world around him. And then we go to the Vav, which is emotions. Where does an emotion come from? And it's interesting, you sit with kids more than you sit with adults. That emotions are there, and they are emphasized. And that's why a child, if something doesn't go well, so the emotions are very, very triggered by it. So they would cry. Okay, so when they're happy, they don't have to hide it. You can see that they're happy. When they are sad, you can see that they are sad. Because the midas are very, very strong. The sechel is not developed enough, so it does not control the midot.
Where do they come, the midot, from?
So the midot come from... it's a very interesting point. On the one hand, the midot come from the soul itself. They are an extension of the soul. It's like the hand. Where does the hand come from? It's an extension of the body. But the midot, you can tune them according to the seh. In the same way as you can tune your hands according to your sechel.
But they are given from Hashem.
But I think that they are given from Hashem. So in other words, one person...
You can work on them, but at the root, they come from above.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I understand. Even though in Chassidus it says that Hamidot hem toladot haseichel. The midas are the
Later.
What is it? A consequence and a fruit of the mind. But it's not that the mind brings them to life. The mind can affect them, change them, control them. But midot is a powerful tool. And that is why a child has midot. And this is also with us. You know, sometimes a certain attribute, this is something that we're very, very focused on. So
I read from a Kabbalist that some midot derive from astrology.
Interesting. What does that mean from astrology? Not from the nefesh? Or there's an influence of astrology on them. Yeah. So I'll tell you, for example, the Gemara says that Rabbi was born on Mazal Ma'adim. That's when Mars shines. So and therefore to cause the midah of kas, this trait of anger and sometimes it's known as shfichut damim, someone that could turn out into a murderer because he's born on such a time, such an hour.
The same applies to Esau.
Yeah, with all. Yaakov was ish tam, and Esau was ish sadeh. We're not saying that sadeh is bad, but that was his midot, his nature. So that has to do with this, the 6 midos that we spoke about, these different attributes. And that is, so where does midot come from? If there is room for emotion, that means that you have more of an existence, more of a feeling. And that's why the Yud, there's no feeling there at all. There's barely understanding, because the focus is on who and on what?
Hashem.
On Hashem, exactly. All the focus is on Hashem. Everything is concentrated within Hashem's existence. And the Hey already represents Orech and Rochav, because the moment you can understand, there's room for understanding. When you stand in front of a king and the king gives you an order to do something, you do it. You don't say, I understand, I don't understand. Let me try and make it, give it some kind of no. We do it. That's the yud. And then there's the hey, there's a bit more room, but no one's asking you, how do you feel about it? Do you like it? Are you afraid? No. Later on, the vav, all he does is he goes down. Takes an elevator going all the way down. Because the vav is the attributes, and the attributes represent like a child. He feels it's not nice to be around the child with a tantrum. It's not nice. Because he knows himself and no one else. And that's why if something's not according to what he wants, he cries. He doesn't care where he is, in the bus, in the shopping mall, around the Shabbos table. So that's Midas. That's it, Rav. And this is what we said about Hashem. By the way, Hashem also has these midah. L'cha Hashem HaGedula, Hashem you great, the HaGavura, the HaTiferes, harshness, Tiferes, harmony, Netzach, Ve'ahod. It all starts within him. So he's also got these attributes and these midot. And then we have Malchut. And we've got Malchut. Malchut is the last hay. And that represents, it's a different type of a hay. That represents the power of speech and the power of royalty. What is a king? And by the way, it's interesting, you see today that the best world leaders, not best in terms of their results or what they do necessarily, but best in terms of how many years they are in power and how easily did they win the election. Any president or prime minister with the power of speech, he's got many more chances to win the elections. Okay?
BB's one of them.
There you go.
I think
There you go.
2 languages.
Sorry?
In 2 languages.
In 2 languages. And it's not even a translation. It's one thing he says this, another thing he says that.
That's true.
That's the power of speech.
But the speech was begging.
So the speech of Begin, his voice was heard. And he had a very, very powerful speech, yeah.
It didn't last that much.
No. Because it's not only about the speech, but it's a big part of that as well.
That's personality too.
Sorry?
Personality too.
Personality too,
Has a
yeah.
lot to do with it.
Yeah. But the ability, power of speech in general, it has to do about what is the power of speech? To be a complete and wholesome man, do you have to have the power of speech?
Equals
No.
stay silent.
You can stay silent. Not only that, the more you're silent, the more people think that you're wise. And all the politicians, so some politicians, they're good when they speak. Politician that is not good when he speaks, they advise him, listen, don't say a word. Don't say a word.
To be an effective leader or politician,
Yeah.
you must have the power of speech and persuasion in order to be able to carry your policies and have those implemented.
Correct.
If you can't verbalize and voice those so that they can be magnetically understood, then you are at a huge disadvantage in trying to lead a nation or a group of people.
100%. And we see it throughout history. Any other examples? Ronald Reagan, right? He was very good. So who else?
John Kennedy
And John Kennedy also was good.
and his brother Robert.
Reagan was an alcoholic.
Yeah,
His dad was an alcoholic too.
yeah. Okay. But he knew how to tell a joke. He knew how to speak. He knew. Who else do we have?
Martin Luther King.
Martin Luther King also. Yeah. Obama.
Levi.
He knew how to speak, you know.
And he had Winston Churchill.
Churchill.
And before that, Teddy Roosevelt.
Churchill.
Church. Yeah.
He was very effective speaker.
So what is the power of speech, Abe? And why is it so effective? And Nishmasai. But that I would say, that is about the neshama itself. The hay, which is also, by the way, part of the neshama. And that's interesting, because the last hay is the letters. By the way, that's the power of letters as well. It has to do also with writing, but the power of speech even more. Speech, we learned there's a whole hemshach of the Rebbe Rashab.
Power of speech is higher than power of letters.
Yes, yes, yes. It depends on what dimension we're talking about. But in order to accomplish things, to go to the next level, yes, the power of speech is.
If you don't possess the letters or the words, don't possess speech.
Yeah,
We're in a new era. Today, a lot of your leaders and politicians have speech writers to write the words and then they deliver the speech. You go back a century or two, and you have politicians that wrote their own speeches. You look at Abraham Lincoln, and you look at the speeches that he wrote himself and the letters that he wrote. They're incredibly powerful. And yet, when he, as you read the accounts of his speeches themselves, he mesmerized his audience as he delivered those speeches. The Gettysburg Address is a good example.
yeah. And that's Dvar Melech Shilton. Why is a king respected? It's about the word of the king. It's about the fact that if a king, he wouldn't come himself to the town. He would send an emissary on a horse with a loud voice and with a letter to read out to the people. And that defines a king, the power of speech. Nothing else. It's not about the army that he has. It's not about the money that he has. It's about the fact that his word is a word. And that is why when you go into the general world, you know, the highest level of respect is to someone that can respect his word. Because what you think, what you feel, what your potential is, that's all very, very nice and very special. And in a certain way, there's much more light there. But if you keep to your word, that shows that you have integrated into the world. And not only integrated into the world, but you can influence the world. And this is speech. What is speech? Speech, we said, you can be a complete person even without the ability to speak. It doesn't say, by the way, in the Gemara, there are certain things that if a person is hard of hearing, or zecheyesh, he cannot hear, so he has less mitzvahs. A person that cannot speak doesn't have less mitzvahs. Because if you cannot speak, it's okay. What is the difference? Speech means you can extend your being from just being yourself to interacting with others, to connecting with others, to possessing other ideas. Have you ever heard someone discussing with such passion, whatever it is? It could be a theory, it could be a newsletter, and you read the exact same article, and you're sitting around the table, and he says, listen, he repeats the whole article. But the power of speech makes it his. That is the Kiddush. That's why it says, Kol ha'omer davar b'shem omro, mevi geula la'olam. He who says something in the name of the person saying it, he brings geula, redemption to the world. And why? It's because it's a challenge. But when you speak something, you own it, which means you own it. You are extending your being to something else. You're taking possession of an idea, or you are expressing an idea to someone else. The best way to connect with other people is through speech. And that's why the Adam is called Medaber. Because what's different from an Adam and any other part of the world? is that we can really, truly interact with others. So it's not anymore only about us and about who we are, but it's about being able to add to the world, to contribute to the world, and to extend your being. That's why when you speak sometimes, the idea becomes clear in your mind. Becomes clear in your mind, and you can develop emotions towards that idea. You get furious. That's why they say when someone's angry, one of the things that a person should do, just don't say a word. Because if you say a word, you're going to get things worse.
But you can fool people with words.
Right.
So, on YouTube, for example, we'll show a conversation. This poster will say A destroys B, and this poster will say B destroys A. It's the same conversation.
Same conversation.
So it's whoever's giving the commentary, you can either buy it or not. But
Yeah.
So there must
That's
be a
right.
difference in how words are used.
Why they must
You
be.
can fool people, take the farm,
Take the bad people that spoke.
exactly, and
Yeah.
you can speak very well.
Yeah.
So there must be a,
So it depends on the words. That's why, in a certain way, it's not really the soul, because you can change, and that's how we see that. Even the good politicians, by the way, the best mumchiyut is to be able to change the message according to what's happening. Yes, because it's an external part of the soul. It's the hair of the man.
classic example in America was Carter, who had his own way of speaking. He's a Southern gentleman. But during the gas and oil crisis, he said, America, we have to sacrifice now. And Americans said, we don't do that. And then Reagan comes with a horse and says, no sacrifice. The morning is broken, it's all going to be great, and a landslide. So you have to read your audience a little bit.
Yeah.
But there was other ways of establishing connection and bonds, and that is shared experience. But it's not from one to many. In fact, I had a chance recently to talk to a fellow who worked in one of these big American ladder trucks. And I asked him, the big one with the guy who drives it back.
21 weeks.
Yeah, something like that. And I said, what was the best part of it? He said, oh, the guys, which means the people with whom he works. Maybe sometimes in dangerous circumstances. After all, they're firemen, establish bonds, which is also true in the military. The unit.
Very interesting.
But that's not from a leader or somebody up there. It's
Milamata Lama, that's
right.
very interesting.
Although in the corporate world, they develop a fence to try to have that happen where everyone
A
likes
union.
each other.
Yeah.
It usually lasts as long as the events end and then the next.
Yeah, but that's,
Yeah.
But it's a theory.
right.
Yeah. By the way, they did also research about shiurim. What is the success, or the key point, let's say, to a successful shiur? It's not about the topic. Topic is important. It's not about the food. It's also, there's room for the food. It's mainly about the chevra. Who are you sitting with? Who are you meeting? And that's proven, I think, in many things. So I'm trying to connect it to see how it's connected to Hasidus or to the soul. The Rambam, for example, says that Ha'adam Medini. He has an expression. Medini means, in the words of the Rambam, the exact word of Medini I'm not sure, but there is in the context of influence and influences others. He's social, in other words. And that is why the Rambam says that if a person lives with bad neighbors, he should go to the desert and live alone, but not to be next to bad neighbors, because he will definitely be influenced that day. So, I don't want to switch it off. So,
But all the
yeah.
politicians in Italy are honest, right?
but the politician are what?
Honest in Italy. There's no problem.
Olam הפוך ראיתי. One is Jordan.
Yeah, okay.
Okay. Okay. So also for Hashem, when Hashem practically, so to speak, has to bring life to others, that is done in what way? Not in the intellect, not in the emotion, because that's about you. There's no room for others. When Hashem has to create, how does he create? With what attribute? Malchut, which is the power of speech. Because that is about others. Again, when you talk, you're talking to someone. You don't really talk to yourself. Even if you do it for the purpose of elaborating and trying to understand what's happening. So that is B'dvar Melech Shilton, and that's why the letter Hey is considered the most powerful letter in terms of the fact that it's the most pure letter. Hey, it's just Hevel HaPeh, and also that's the name of Hashem is represented in the Ot Hey, and it's known as Ot Kalila, the lightest letter, because Aleph you've got to pronounce it. Hey is just a Hey. That's the idea. So that's Malchut. That's a bit about Malchut. And now the Alter Rebbe goes, and I think that's where we stopped. Alter Rebbe says this applies also within us, because until now we were speaking about Hashem, but all of this Yud Kei Vav Kei applies with him, within us as well. The same as it applies with us. Where are we? Do you remember where you stopped exactly? No. Try to see. Might be the last. Okay, so this is on the last page, and the second paragraph, analogically, something like that. Starting from there.
Analogically, again, considering the infinite separation between the two cases, these same four stages apply to the soul of man, i.e., the divine soul that he blew from within himself. There is the initial state of hidden concept symbolized in the letter U, with its potential of being revealed. Thus, understanding and conceiving of his true being and greatness, each person according to his measure, according to the breadth of his intellect and understanding.
Okay. So that is already the Yud and the Hey that's within us, in our soul. That's what we feel. Okay, let's continue.
As man deepens his intelligence, as he broadens his mind and comprehension to contemplate his greatness, his now developed understanding is indicated in the letter Hey, that has breadth. The Hey also has length, to indicate downward extension, that from his understanding and contemplation of God's majesty, he arouses love and fear and the ramifications in his mind and in the recesses of his heart.
When we read Eretz Oldot Adam Behibaram, the Hey is the second one.
Yes. Behibaram. Behibaram. That's what the Midrash says with the letter Hey. First and then the second. Okay. So this is chapter 4, and I want to also continue to chapter 5 because chapter 5 is also very interesting, and it's going to answer to us how do people continue living beyond the age of 50 and 60, and what damage is caused by an Avera. So I didn't manage to make the copies, but Bezrat Hashem for next week, we'll also read it inside. And the Alter Rebbe here says that the way that the soul is created is Vayipach V'Aprav Nishmat Chaim, the spiritual oxygen. This is what we can compare it to. And not only that, it says, Yaakov כי חלק השם עמו, יעקב חבל נחלתו. This is what it says in the Torah. That we are part of Hashem, and not only that, we are the rope. Yaakov Chevel Nachalato. We are, how would we translate Nachala? Sorry? Like,
Stream?
Nachala, a piece of land, let's say, in terms of the the main focus is on the Chevel. We are connected to Hashem with this massive rope. And this is the idea of our bond with Hashem. So in other words, Hashem, property, you can say. There's a connection between the owner and the property through this Chevel. Yaakov Chevel Nachalato. We're the connection.
How is it written, Hevel?
Chet Bet Lamed.
Well, Hevel is with A.
So this is also very interesting. It's a very good point. Because we know that the letters Chet and Hey can be exchanged.
Peculiar.
Yeah, because it shows the same inyan. That this Hevel, which is this rope, it's not just the regular rope. This is a rope that provides us with the spiritual oxygen. And here there are two ways that could cause this to go wrong. If there is some kind of separation, a chatzitza means some kind of a division between us and Hashem that interferes with this rope. It's something spiritual, so what kind of blockage are we talking about here? We're talking about, like it says in Isaiah, the sins that are spiritual, they cause the separation. It's not something physical. It's not like there's something blocking the channel physically. It's about the spiritual connection that we have. And this has to do also with the whole idea of karet. Karet is basically a result. And it is very important to speak about it once again, that punishments from Hashem are not punishments. Punishments of Hashem are results. What is the difference between a punishment and a result? Punishment is something external.
Who is?
Sorry?
Subject. Responsibility, I am responsible. Punishment comes from there.
Comes from there. So there is an element of punishment, but in a way that is deeply connected to the action that we do. Let's speak about the positive. Let's speak about the mitzvahs and the rewards. There are certain rewards that we see that they are given to us here in this world. We don't have to wait. For example, Kibud Horim. Kibud Horim, when you respect your parents, what is the reward for that? Long life. Long life is here in this world. And it's very interesting because it's not only an external reward, it comes from the source of what the good deed that you did. If someone respects his parents, there's a very good chance that his parents will live for quite a while. And the children will see the way that the father treated their grandparents and will treat him in the same way. And that will give him a lot of energy and life to live for many years. For sure, there's an element of spirituality as well, which is like a reward, an external reward. But here, it's like hazorim bedima berina yiktoru. If you work very, very hard on a certain project, then with Hashem's help, you're going to get the fruit. So also in the negative way, it works the same. In certain things, correct means that this rope is cut. And karet means this is a very severe avera, and therefore the whole rope gets cut at once. And that's why the pasuk said, "V'nechreta hanefesh hahi," that soul will be, how would we translate? Cut off, milfanai, in front of me. Why does it say in front of me? Because that's the whole idea. It's like I've got a channel, I'm providing life and oxygen, spiritual oxygen to this person, to the soul with the body. And he does karet, he's disconnecting it. So what can I do? Hashem cannot do much. Or, by the way, this could also happen, and here the Alter Rebbe goes into the details. What is this rope made out of? A big rope usually is made out of many small ropes. So he says there's 613 small ropes that form this gigantic rope. And then what could happen is that there are key ropes that hold it together, and those are the carriers. So if you cut that off, then the bond is not that good yet. Or if you cut a lot of the small ones, that also could affect it.
You know a prayer in here, I can never find anything.
Yeah.
It basically says, I anticipate some punishment,
Yeah,
but just don't make it an illness or something.
yeah.
So
We say it every Yom Kippur and Rosh Hashanah. We say it when we want Hashem to purify our souls from the sins. So we say, Hashem, remove it, clean it over, not through suffering. And it's fine, yes, we should dive it in this way, we should pray for that. We don't want pain and suffering. But this is talking about the channel and how things work.
לא על ידי ייסורים, אלא
Got to see the exact. It
No.
should be-
no what is it? What
but what are the other ways?
רחמים?
Yeah, Rachamim. Yeah, you ask for that.
רחמונס.
So this explains to us something very interesting, and this is what the Arizal also says. The Arizal says that there are two parts to the channel of life that we get from Hashem. One part is this chevel, this rope, and another part is the makif. The makif has to do with a general life that we get from Hashem. And that is how people can still live off this makif. Why? And that's why they don't die after the age of 50 and 60, like a person that does karet should, and that's how it was in those days. But today, the influence of this makif that is on us has a very powerful effect, and that lets us live on and on and on, and sometimes even in a very comfortable life. So the way that we used to get our energy from Hashem in the times of Beis Hamikdash was with a direct channel, and that's the only way. Today, we can also get it through the Koach HaMakif that we get, and that's how we can continue living. So then, it's like, how do we compare this to? There's another famous mimer of the Rebbe. The Rebbe speaks about doing things in the right way in terms of our connection to Hashem. And the Rebbe speaks there about a parable that Umot HaOlam, they bow down to idols. And in their understanding, it's not clear to me if it had an effect or not, but it had an effect. But so if someone used to bow down to the sun and to the moon and worship them, and that's why you're going to find lots of ancient monuments that are connected to the planets and to the sun and things like that. Even the pyramid, the way the pyramid is placed, it's like connected to the north or something,
The sun.
or to the sun, very, very precise. So it's sorry,
Inca.
and the Inca as well. All of South America, there's a lot of these pyramids and statues. It's fascinating. It's very interesting. And why did they do it? Because they didn't have modern technology, but they had ancient technology. And ancient technology had an effect as well. So if they would bow down to the sun and to the sun and the moon would generate them with more flow. But it's not getting it from the right direction. And they mistaken the sun and the moon that they have a self-power that they could actually provide us. But of course, it's false. But they did not have the wisdom. It's like a person going to work. Who pays you at the end of the month?
My work.
My work. That's what we say. But who really pays you? Hashem. I heard a very good mashal that, and again, it's a high level of bitachon that, by the way, only belongs to the Jews. Gentiles are not obligated. If they decide, now worshipping idols is one thing, But if they say thank you to what's called Elokad Elokaya, that Hashem is the God of gods, that is called Shituf. Shituf is that they combine others as well. So the fact that they combine others and say that they are like ministers of God, generating the light into the world, that's fine for the Gentiles. It's interesting. For us Jews, we're not allowed to believe in it. In other words, we've got to say, when I get my paycheck from work, I say, thank you, Hashem.
So what is our relationship with the Ishtadlut?
So the relationship with Hishtadlut is that the Hishtadlut itself is something that Hashem wants. Not because the Hishtadlut really has the power, but the Hishtadlut is that Hashem wants. So
if you don't partake in Ishtadlut,
you're not going to get. Why? You're not going to get if you don't do Hishtadlut.
why?
Why? Because Hashem says, I want to give you, but I want to give those that do Hishtadlut, that they work at it.
Where do we find the importance of Ishtadlut?
We see it in all the stories of the Tanakh, from David HaMelech, from Yaakov Avinu. Yaakov Avinu did three things when he encountered Esau. He prayed. Why did he pray? Because it's about Hashem. But if you just pray and you're not going to bribe your brother, or you're not going to prepare for war, Machanaim, then Hashem is going to say, I don't want to help people that don't want to help themselves. And that's a big part, Sometimes people ask for your help. But you want to make sure that it's going to actually help him so that he could help himself. But if it's not about that, then maybe it's better not to help.
At the end, the result is the Ishtadlut with Hashem.
The result is Hashem.
It's not a combination.
Like everything, not a combination, I would say it's a condition. Hashem says, you want to qualify to the list that I will give you a salary this month? Show up to work. It's a deep level of emunah. And that's what they say in about Purim, by the way. That's why also another thing is that we've got to deal with the source. Has to do today with the army and the Lomdei Torah, etc. Maybe we'll speak about that because it's very important. There's a lot of what the media is saying, and on each side, it's because they are concerned about money or about this and that. But let's speak about Purim and about what the Yerushalmi says, is that a Jew is ma'amin b'chei ha'olamin v'zoreh. He has a field next to a field of a Gentile, and throughout the whole season, they do the exact same things. They have to plow the field, they've got to water it, they've got to do all the other things. They do the same thing. At the end of the year, when they go home with whatever they have, the Yid says, thank you, Hashem. And the guy says, no. What's the difference? Is the Jew saying it just because he was taught so in grade 3? What kind of bushan is to serve Hashem in a way that you don't believe fully in? That you're realistically saying, oh, thank you, Hashem. But I know I had to wake up at 6 in the morning. And then when he's upset at Hashem, he says, Hashem, I don't thank you for it because I know I worked for it. So is it emet or no emet? And the answer is that it's emes. So why do I need to do the exact same as my neighbor? If it's all Hashem, then I'll sit at home. That's the whole inyan. That you do ishtadlut, you pretend like it's not from Hashem. And you do all your efforts, and in every aspect in life. And the Rebbe was biggest into hishtadlut, asking another doctor's opinion and another doctor's opinion, and having friends that could suggest to you what to do. No, maybe open a book of Tehillim and rely on that. The Rebbe never said, the Rebbe always said, strengthen your connection to Hashem. Why? Because that's the source that your friends could help you. Because that's the real influence that we have over here. It's from Hashem. But you have to do your hishtadlut as well. So that's the combination. How did we get into that?
Everything comes from Hashem.
Okay. So that's about the karet. So the karet can cut this channel off, but we still can continue living from what's called the makif. from the light that surrounds us. And that has enough energy that then when we got things properly, and that's how we got into it, because there's the Ummos Ha'olam, they don't have the obligation to eat and to dine at the king's table. But if you want to dine at the king's table, you're going to get what's called the manot gourmet. Okay, you're going to get these small portions that cost a fortune. And maybe you'll leave the meal and you'll still feel hungry. And in the kitchen, the people that are preparing the food, they can do whatever they want. And that's the mashal. You get the channel from the maki, from the outside, you can get a lot. But if you want to dine on the king's table, and as Jews we have the possibility, you're going to eat gourmet food. And there could be karet, that if you don't behave appropriately, the king's not going to let you in. And that's the difference.
Well, the problem with gourmet food,
Yeah.
it's not filling.
It's not filling, that's it. Yeah.
And
That's
You can eat a lot of food, but it's not filling.
it's not filling. But a person and that's why, by the way, for a lot of people, they don't want to go to that place. But as Yidden, we have the opportunity, we get the right, which means we can live up to it. And that's people that eat gourmet, that they train their body, and that's their style. It's like a person that buys a cup of coffee, a small cup like this, in the airport for $30. This costs 30 shekels, not far from that. But there are people like that. So for them, it suits them. They're not going to go to the regular Starbucks and get a cup of coffee like this for $5. They will go to and they'll get for $30 a small.
There's work in fitting.
In that.
Yeah.
So it's worthwhile. So at the end, it's worthwhile as well. That's the point. But it's an acquired taste. And not everyone can actually acquire it. Because some people, they have a different mission in life.
What's funny about what you said in America
Yeah.
is the Starbucks cup.
Yeah.
To walk into work with a Starbucks cup is very important.
It's a statement. It's like
so if you are in the makif and not at the table, the makif is kind of happenstance.
yes. In a certain way. Yeah. That's why it says that where does the other side, the Sitra Afra, where does it get its energy and source from? From the makif. The makif means it's like a general light where we're not paying attention to the details 100%. And that's how even other people can benefit from it.
So if there is a tsunami in Thailand, it's from makif.
So the tsunami, it's interesting. Tsunami is a punishment. I don't know about the punishment, but let's even speak about the reward. Today, many other countries, you can live much better. You know, other countries, even in Europe, even today with all the problems that are happening, you know, in the United States. So the makif, you can get much more.
Or less.
You can also get less. But the question is, how come other nations get much more than us? Because they get from the makif. Mm-hmm. And they get from this general light. You can get much more if you know exactly how to do it. There's a lot of source to that.
So why always Angola is less and Switzerland is more?
So that we're going into the details of each country, the specific countries. There's the curse on Ham, and there's the other calculations also that Hashem has. But the general idea, it's not easy for us. And so this is also chapter Hay, the 5th chapter, and we'll read it next year. B'ezrat Hashem, we'll read it inside. That's the plan. And we'll go through B'ezrat Hashem again. But now we can understand how come a lot of other people that are not following Torah mitzvahs, and sometimes not only that, it's not only they're not following, they go against Hashem. How come evil people succeed? Where do they get their power from? Everything has to have a spark of holiness inside. And the answer is that it comes from the makif. And I'll tell you another interesting answer. And this also, Hanoch, I think you'll like this as well. It says that, no, it doesn't say, but we see that in the events in history, everyone that goes against the Jews, there has to be like one Jew on their side that joins them to go against them.
What?
Sometimes it's even more. Why? Why does it have to be that way? Why is it like that way? So I'm not talking about the Jewish point of view, but about Hashem's point of view. These levels of Hashem's name are connected also to the levels of the neshama. But nefesh, ruach, neshama, chaya, yechida. Yechida is like ne'ilah. Davening of ne'ilah is connected to yechida. That's the fifth prayer in Yom Kippur. And it says that the other side does not have this yechida. Cannot reach that level.
Not every Jew has got yechida.
No, so every Jew has yechida.
Yes.
Not yes, but it's not always in the Bible. That's why you only feel it in the Ne'ilah. And even in the Ne'ilah, they say, think about Mesirus Nefesh. Because what is really yechida? It's giving up your life for Hashem. That is yechida.
So this guy you're speaking of,
Oh, he has a yechida.
he has a yechida.
Yes, for sure, because every Yid has a yechida.
But
And that's why they cling onto him in order to get his yechida involved.
Who?
To face our yechida.
who cling at them?
The Rishaim, the Umat HaOlam. Yeah. So they have to face our yechida. The only way to really do it is if they can take someone into. This is what the Rebbe
They are
says.
trying to take his yechida
Yeah.
for themselves.
Yes, yes, yes.
Oh my God.
Yeah, yeah. So on the one hand, we say that every Jew has a Nekudat Kedusha. On the other hand, here he's using his highest power, or they're using his highest power in order to influence us. Maybe he doesn't even know it.
So they are jealous.
Yes, in a certain way, yeah. And that's why the Rebbe speaks about it in a Maimer Tafshin Yud Aleph Natata Leve'echa Nes Leitnoses, which is about the miracle that the previous Rebbe was freed from Russia. And there, the whole KGB that was in charge of of persecuting Jews in Russia, they were made out of Russian Jews. The people that imprisoned the previous Rebbe was Lulav and Nachmanson, Jewish people, that their grandparents were Hasidim of Chabad. Why? Today, the Jews so what is the solution? You know, there's a lot of these Jews that are, my father was a Holocaust survivor, so they say he's going to put a label. He's a descendant of the Holocaust survivor and he's Jewish. So we want to hear what he has to say about the genocide going on in Gaza, and he's right about it. Why? Because he's a grandson of a Holocaust survivor. So where does that, first of all, I don't know if we can, it's a problem. They quote onto this Yid, and they're taking his Yechida, because without that, they're not going to succeed at it. That's what the Rebbe says. And that is why, after all of our efforts, we need Mashiach. Because to reach the top of the mountain, you need Mashiach. That's why it says we have to open for Hashem, Petach Pitcho Shel Machat. Open a small opening for Hashem, like the top of the needle. Hashem will open the rest. And that has to be our mission. That's why Mashiach comes behesed chadash without our understanding. He'll come this moment. Because no matter what we will do, there's always going to be things that we cannot fix. And he has to fix it. And that's part of his coming. That's what we have to say to him. We've got to say to Hashem, I'm not responsible for everything inside me, and I'm not responsible for everything inside the world. I open an opening, you do the rest. Shut.